I want to start today by looking at something that, honestly, I did not expect to find in a stack of research about mental health. It's this visual hook that really stuck with me.
You're talking about the cowboy card.
Cowboy card.
Right.
This small, kind of yellowed membership card. And it's got a picture of a bucking bronco on it, and the text reads, "This is to certify that Wick Peth is a life member of the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association."
It is definitely a striking image to kick off a discussion on clinical mental health counseling.
But I love it because it proves a point. I mean, think about the job description of a rodeo cowboy.
Yeah.
Your entire career is based on holding on for dear life while a huge animal tries to throw you into the dirt. It's like the definition of a solitary, rugged, me against the world kind of job.
And yet, even they need a collective voice. They need a pack.
Exactly. If the Cowboys need an association to watch their backs, you better believe mental health professionals do too.
That's a perfect analogy. We often romanticize counseling as this very private, intimate thing. It's just you and the client in a quiet room. But the reality, and the source material makes this very clear, is that without the structure of professional associations, that room might not even exist.
Or at least you wouldn't be getting paid to be in it.
Yeah.
So today, we are doing a deep dive into the landscape of professional associations in clinical mental health counseling. We're going to decode the absolute alphabet soup of acronyms ACA, AMHCA, NDCC, and we're going to figure out why these organizations actually matter.
And it really isn't just about paying dues and getting a newsletter. It is about your professional identity. It's about political power and, frankly, protection.
So let's unpack this. We've got our research, especially this one chapter, and it paints a pretty wild picture of how we got here. I think there's this assumption that these associations are a modern thing, just more bureaucracy we cooked up recently.
That's a common misconception. The history is actually fascinating. You might think these groups just popped up, but the source material points out that by the turn of the 20th century, we're talking the year 1900 here, there were already close to 1,000 psychologically oriented associations in the U.S.
1,000. That is staggering. The field was barely even a field yet.
It just shows that the drive to connect, to standardize, and to share knowledge is, it's foundational. It's in the DNA of the profession. But the mission has evolved.
Yeah.
Back then, it was probably about basic scientific inquiry. Today, it's about survival and advocacy.
Okay, that leads us right to the big why. And I want to play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it.
If I'm a busy professional, or maybe a stressed out grad student living on ramen, writing a check for a membership fee, that hurts. So why should I care about joining one of these groups?
They aren't cheap, you're right. But this is where it gets really interesting. If you ask most people why they join, they might say, oh, for the networking, or I get access to the journals, and sure, those are nice.
Those are perks.
They are perks. But the single most critical benefit, according to the text, is lobbying and legislative initiatives.
So the stuff that happens behind closed doors in Washington.
Precisely. Think about the economics of it. An individual counselor can't just walk into Congress, knock on a senator's door, and demand changes to healthcare laws. You're just one person. But an association representing 50,000 members.
That's a voting block.
That is leverage.
And the text gives this massive recent example of that leverage in action, the Mental Health Access Improvement Act.
This is huge. I mean, it is the perfect example of why those dues matter. For the longest time, licensed professional counselors, LPCs, were essentially locked out of the Medicare system.
And just so we're clear on the stakes here, that meant if you were a counselor and your client turned 65 and went on Medicare, you basically had to stop seeing them or see them for free. The government just wouldn't recognize you.
Exactly. You were invisible to the federal payer system, and that meant 43 million Americans were just off limits to you as potential clients. That's a massive chunk of the population.
So what changed?
Advocacy. Years and years of it. Groups like the ACA and AMHCA spent millions of dollars and countless hours lobbying to change that legislation, and they won. Now, counselors can bill Medicare.
That is a transformative shift for the entire profession.
It is, but here's the kicker, and the text brings up a concept from economics called the free rider problem.
I remember this from Econ 101. It's when you benefit from something without paying for it.
That's it, exactly. If you are a counselor today, you can bill Medicare whether you're a member of the ACA or not. You are reaping the benefits. You have access to those 43 million clients, but you aren't supporting the financial engine that made it all possible.
So you're eating the dinner that the rest of the table cooked and paid for.
Precisely. And while it might make short-term financial sense to save your dues money, the argument is that if everyone did that, the advocacy just stops. The lobbyists go home, and the profession loses its voice. So that membership fee isn't really a subscription, it's an investment in the infrastructure that keeps your job viable.
That puts the check you write in a very different light. Okay, but let's talk about the other big benefit, the one that keeps you sleeping at night. Protection.
Liability insurance. It's one of those things you hope you never ever need, but you absolutely cannot practice without it.
Because we live in a pretty litigious society.
We do. And even if you do everything by the book, a malpractice claim can happen. The legal fees alone can be astronomical.
And for students listening, the source material highlighted a huge perk here.
Yes, this is a massive value add. Student membership in organizations like AMHCA often comes with free liability insurance.
Wait, actually free?
Included with the student dues, yes. We're talking coverage up to $1 million per claim. Now, your university usually has an umbrella policy, but those can have gaps, and more programs are actually requiring students to carry their own insurance.
And buying that on the open market would not be cheap.
Not at all. So getting it as a perk of joining is, well, it's a no-brainer. You get the community, the resources, and the protection all in one.
Okay, so we have the offense lobbying for more money and access, and we have the defense liability protection. But now we need to sort out the players. If you're a clinical mental health counselor, the text says you really have two homes.
The ACA and the AMHCA.
It sounds like a tongue twister. Let's break down the difference, because to an outsider, they sound almost identical. The text uses a great analogy. We should think of the ACA as the university.
That's a really helpful way to see it. The American Counseling Association, or ACA, is the big umbrella. It's the world's largest counseling association, over 57,000 members. It houses everyone.
And when we say everyone, we mean everyone.
Oh, yes. School counselors, rehabilitation counselors, career counselors, college counselors. Its roots go all the way back to 1913 and Frank Parsons, who's considered the father of vocational guidance.
1913. So this institution has seen the entire evolution of the profession, from guidance to therapy.
It has. And just like a massive university, it has departments, or in this case, divisions. There are 19 specialized divisions within the ACA.
I love looking through this list. It really shows you the diversity of the field. You have the Association for Creativity and Counseling, for the artsy folks, music therapy, that sort of thing.
Then you have counselors for social justice, for the activists, the people focused on systemic change.
And even the Association for Spiritual, Ethical, and Religious Values in Counseling.
And this highlights why the ACA is so powerful. It lets you find a niche based on your interests. Creativity, justice, spirituality, while still being part of this huge mothership that has the resources to publish the heavy hitters.
Like the Journal of Counseling and Development.
Exactly. If you want to know what's happening in the field broadly, the big research, the big trends, the ACA is where you look.
Okay, so if the ACA is the general university, then the AMHCA, the American Mental Health Counselors Association, that's the specialized college.
That's it. AMHCA is a specialist. It was founded in 1976 as a division of the ACA, but, and here's where the plot thickens, they split away in 2019 to become an independent entity.
A conscious uncoupling. Why the split?
Well, divergent needs. The ACA has to look out for school counselors and career counselors, whose day-to-day reality is very different from a clinician in a hospital. Clinical mental health counselors have very specific medical and legal needs. AMHCA focuses 100% on them.
So if I'm working in a community agency dealing with complex trauma, AMHCA is the one fighting specifically for my recognition as a healthcare provider, separate from a school guidance counselor.
Correct. And AMHCA produces a document that is absolutely vital for clinicians, the standards for the practice of clinical mental health counseling.
Now, is this just a list of best practices, or does it have actual teeth?
It has teeth, big teeth. It defines the standards of care. In a legal sense, if you're ever sued for malpractice, the court doesn't just guess if you messed up. They look at whether you followed the standard of care for your profession. AMHCA literally defines that standard. It's your shield.
That seems incredibly important. And they offer some pretty cool advanced certifications, too.
They do. They have credentials in trauma counseling, geriatric counseling, forensic evaluation. It lets a generalist counselor show that they have specialized clinical expertise.
So the strategy for a listener could be, you might belong to both, but they serve different functions. ACA connects you to the whole wide world of counseling, And AMHCA drills down into the clinical reality.
Ideally, yes. Many professionals maintain dual membership for exactly that reason. It's an investment, but it covers all your bases.
All right, we've covered the big two. But anyone who has looked at a business card in this field knows there are about 5 other acronyms usually listed after someone's name. This is the alphabet soup of affiliates.
The ecosystem. These organizations don't really have members in the same way, but they regulate the profession.
Okay, let's do a rapid-fire round to demystify these.
Yeah.
I'm starting my career. First up, KC Rep.
The Standard Keepers. K-SIRUP accredits educational programs. If you're looking at a master's program, you want it to be K-SIRUP accredited. It just ensures the curriculum meets national standards, and it streamlines your path to licensure later.
Got it. So that's the school. Next, NBCC.
The Badge Givers. The National Board for Certified Counselors. They're the ones who grant the NCC Credential National Certified Counselor.
Now, is that the same as a license?
No, and that is a really common point of confusion.
Right.
A license comes from the state government and lets you practice legally. The NCC is a voluntary board certification. It's a mark of national quality, but it doesn't let you practice on its own. It's like a gold star on your resume.
Okay. Chi Sigma Iota, or CSI.
The Honor Society. This is for scholarly excellence and leadership within counseling programs. It looks great on a CV and connects you with other high achievers.
And finally, ASCB.
The Movers, the American Association of State Counseling Boards. They're the group trying to solve one of the biggest headaches in the profession: portability.
Moving states.
Exactly. Historically, if you were a licensed counselor in New York and moved to New Jersey, you might have to jump through all these hoops, take new exams, maybe even go back to school. It was a nightmare.
So ASCB are the heroes trying to fix this.
They are working on the Counseling Compact, which is making great strides. The goal is to make a counseling license more like a driver's license recognized wherever you go.
That would be a game changer. Now, we've talked about the internal family of counseling, but mental health isn't a solo sport. You're working alongside other professionals. The text calls them the neighbors.
Or cousins. And it's vital to understand who these neighbors are because their professional associations define their scope of practice, which sometimes overlaps with yours.
And sometimes tries to eat yours.
Scope of practice battles are a real thing, yes.
Let's start with the big confusing one, the tale of 2 APAs.
Yes. If someone says they are a member of the APA, you have to ask which one.
Right. First, there's the American Psychiatric Association.
Founded in 1844, the oldest of the bunch. These are medical doctors, psychiatrists. Their association publishes the DSM-5-TR, the diagnostic manual that everyone uses. Their focus is heavily biological, medical, and pharmaceutical.
And then there's the American Psychological Association.
Founded later, 1892. These are psychologists, usually PhDs or CISPIDs. Their association focuses heavily on psychological science, testing, and assessment.
So one provides the meds and the manual, that's psychiatry, and the other provides the testing and the research, psychology, broadly speaking.
Broadly, yes. And historically, there has been a lot of friction between these groups about scope of practice, like whether psychologists should be allowed to prescribe medication. It's why their associations are so aggressive.
Then there is the giant in the room, social work.
The NSW, National Association of Social Workers.
And why do we call them a giant?
Just pure numbers. They have about 120,000 members. That is roughly double the size of the ACA. Social work has a very distinct identity rooted in social justice and systems theory, but practically in an agency, a counselor and a clinical social worker often do very similar jobs.
It's interesting how their sheer size gives them so much weight. If the NSW calls a senator, that phone gets answered.
Absolutely. The NSW is a powerhouse when it comes to social policy.
We also have some niche neighbors that our listeners might work with.
Like the American Art Therapy Association, the ATA. They are fighting so hard for regulation and licensure for art therapists to make sure it's seen as a distinct clinical profession, not just an activity.
And school psychologists.
Represented by NASP. And it's important to distinguish them from school counselors. School psychologists are really focused on testing, learning behavior, and special ed assessments.
And finally, one that I think is becoming more and more critical, the psychiatric nurses.
The APNA. As the demand for medication management just outstrips the supply of psychiatrists, psychiatric nurses with prescription privileges are becoming crucial team members. Their association really advocates for their role.
It really is an ecosystem, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't just stay in your counseling bubble. You have to know what the nurses, the social workers, and the psychologists are all doing.
And often, despite the turf wars, these associations collaborate. The fight for mental health parity, making sure insurance covers mental health the same as physical health, that's a battle where the ACA, AMHCA, APA, and NSW often find themselves on the same side.
Strengthen numbers across the board.
Exactly. When the issue is big enough, the tribes unite.
So as we wrap this up, what does this all mean for the listener? We've gone from rodeo cards to legislative bills to this whole alphabet soup of organizations.
I think it comes back to professional identity. These associations provide a home base. They bridge that gap between being an isolated individual practitioner and being part of a larger movement.
And to go back to that free rider idea,
Hmm.
if you care about your job existing in 10 years or about getting paid by insurance, you kind of have to support the people who are fighting that battle.
Without the dues, the lobbyists go home, the advocacy stops, and the laws that protect the profession just don't get passed. It really is that simple.
I want to leave everyone with a final provocative thought, which is based on an exercise in the source material. It asks, if you were to build your own professional association from scratch today, what would it stand for?
That is a great question. It forces you to prioritize what actually matters to you. Would you be exclusive, only allowing people with PhDs? Or would you be inclusive, bringing in peer support specialists and coaches?
And most importantly, what specific legislative battle would you fight first? Would you fight for better pay, better access for rural clients, portability?
It's easy to critique the existing organizations, to say they're too slow or too expensive. But when you have to prioritize the mission yourself, it gets complicated fast. You realize you can't win every battle at once.
It forces you to decide what really matters to the profession. So find your tribe, people. Whether it's the big university of the ACA or the specialized college of the AMHCA, find the group that's fighting your fight. Thanks for diving in with us.
It was a pleasure.